The Golden Horde, the state of Jochi. Culture and crafts. In times gone by, 750 years ago, the state of the Golden Horde arose on the vast expanses of Eurasia. It was called Ulu Ulus, or the state of Jochi, after the name of Jochi Khan, the eldest son of Genghis Khan. In the Golden Horde, in many of its cities, various crafts had truly developed. But how did these artisans live in the Golden Horde? And what goods and items did they create? This is what we are going to talk about in our program today. Today, thanks to archaeologists, we have an idea of the wealth of the steppe cities. Cities primarily became the crossroads of great trade routes. This circumstance contributed to the development of production and growth of the domestic economy. Excavating an ancient settlement of the Golden Horde period, Kazakh historians are exploring it layer by layer. They were lucky enough to find many artifacts that give evidence to the development of production. Various items of metal, ceramics, and clay were found. Large clay pots were sent to the museum. Right now, archaeologists are busy studying new finds. A small vessel with an elongated spout, probably for the use of vegetable oil. A ceramic cup. Round metal rings. Round parts with holes in the center, and more. The archaeologists were especially pleased with the discovery of a signet ring made of metal. An ancient jeweler made the ring so that it could be worn on any size finger. The ring had two halves. What alloy it is made of will be determined by a laboratory. Archaeologists will document the find and assign it a number. Residues of melted glass and slags, small blanks of beads and sticks for drawing patterns on beads were also found in the thickness of these archaeological layers. All this indicates the presence of jewelry workshops in this city. One day, a young girl named Jibek entered a rich Khan's yurt. Inside the yurt, her older sister Ayun was sitting on a beautiful warm felt carpet. She was the wife of the Khan, but despite her power, she was a kind and caring woman. Ayun greeted her sister warmly and saw that something was concerning her. She invited her to sit next to her and wanted to offer her some hot milk and butter, but Jibek refused the treat. In a quiet, timid voice, the younger sister said that she knew that Ayun was going to the capital city, the city of Sarai. Ayun nodded her head in affirmation and wondered why she was so concerned about the trip. This, of course, was a long trip, but it wasn't dangerous, and she would be returning very soon. Exhaling, Jibek said that she wanted to ask her sister to order her a necklace made of stones, similar to the one that Ayun was wearing on her head at that very moment. Ayaan was thinking to herself that Jibek had no idea how much such a piece of jewelry might cost. After a little thought, Ayaan decided to help her little sister and give her the jewelry that she dreamed of so much. It would be her wedding gift, and she will somehow settle it with the Han. Jewelry is one of the brightest manifestations of artistic creativity of any nation. Over time, everything undergoes changes, especially if a craft is hundreds of years old. Nevertheless, some techniques as well as peculiarities of ornaments and decor have survived to this very day. In the modern items of Kazakhstani Zhergyr jewelers, one can see the techniques that were applied by the Golden Horde jewelers. Each piece of jewelry requires a specific approach. The craftsmen use the embossing technique when making jewelry. To transfer the drawing to a thin plate, it was necessary to attach a stamp to the metal and hit it with a hammer. Then the desired pattern remained on the soft metal. Often in their products, the Golden Horde jewelers used an ornament in the form of a triangle filled with convex points. Such ornaments can also be seen in Kazakh national jewelry. To make a ring of the required size, the craftsman used a special device in the form of a cone, which corresponded to different finger sizes. The ring was bent, and using fire, the jeweler soldered the ends of the item. A peculiar feature of jewelers in that time was that they were of different ethnic backgrounds, all having different cultures. Therefore, their products were distinguished by a great variety in both form and technique. Choosing a stone is one of the most difficult tasks for a jeweler, because it is the stone that attracts the main attention, and it is practically the key element in the decoration. Its color, shape, and size should be in perfect harmony with all the details of the future product. People who lived in the cities and settlements of the Golden Horde had special feelings about jewelry. At the same time, jewelry not only carried beauty and aesthetics, but also had a sacred meaning. First of all, girls wore jewelry that provided them with healthy offspring, protection from evil spirits and the evil eye, and brought them good luck and happiness. Jewelry could also be worn on different parts of the body. They were worn by both men and women, as they demonstrated their certain status and position in society. And product styling was closely related to the silhouette and form of clothing. For the military nobility, weapons and armor were of particular importance, which were inlaid with semi-precious stones and details of gold and silver. City rulers, wealthy citizens, and merchants often wore jeweled belts, pendants, and signet rings. Men from the upper classes only wore seals and signet rings on their fingers. It was seen as a personification of power, privilege, and evidence of leadership and ambition. It's amazing how creative art has the ability to absorb ancient traditions that go back to different stages of people's historical past. It is in the jewelry that the centuries-old methods and techniques of artistic performance are preserved. Since ancient times, various natural material deposits have been developed in the territories subordinate to the Mongolian state. Clay was of course the most accessible raw material for artisans. It was mined everywhere, in different colors and types. Pottery reached an incredibly high level. Most of the products were made of multi-component alloys of copper, tin, zinc, and lead. Copper was often used to make coins. For the production of iron and its alloys, iron ore is required. It was mined in quarries. The main material from which the cauldrons and boilers were made was cast iron, which is an alloy of iron and carbon. Silver was the favored material of Golden Horde jewelers. The brilliance of this metal was associated with moonlight. Gold was the most valuable metal among the Mongols. It was not only used to mint coins, but also to make jewelry and dishware. During the excavations of the Golden Horde cities, archaeologists were able to find large workshops for the processing of ornamental and precious stones. A horse is a man's wings, says the old Mongolian proverb. The horse, for a Mongol, who was both a warrior and a herdsman, was the most irreplaceable animal. That is why, in the Mongolian state, leather workers were highly valued, especially those who made saddles. They were called saddlers. Today, Kazakhstani craftsmen, observing ancient traditions, can recreate the saddle, which was created by leather workers of the Golden Horde. Many secrets, of course, have been lost, but the main stages in the manufacturing of saddles are known nowadays to craftsmen. The saddle-making technology of the Mongols was significantly different from the production of similar products among the people. And these features were inextricably linked with cattle breeding and the nomadic way of life, when it was necessary to drive cattle over long distances. A good saddle creates the most comfortable conditions for the rider, and protects the horse's back from possible injury. The saddle is a great example of combining different materials in one piece: wood, metal, leather, and semi-precious stones. Despite all the variety of saddles, they have a common structural principle. It is based on a frame called a saddle tree. The saddle tree is made of wood and covered with upholstery. To cover the saddle with leather, a craftsman had to choose high-quality leather. The leather was carefully prepared. It was fitted to the base and stretched to the shape of the future saddle. The seams that held the leather parts together had to be straight and strong. The main decorative elements were metal plates and plaques of various configurations. The Golden Horde masters used totemic imagery and the animals that they worshipped. Surprisingly, similar saddle designs have survived to this very day. Crafts of the Golden Horde. The business of construction received tremendous development in the time of the Golden Horde. In the cities, they erected mosques, mausoleums, bathhouses, and palaces usually equipped with chimneys. The cities were improved with squares, ditches, ceramic pipelines, and even fountains. The art of bone carving was at a high level. Buckles, buttons, beads, chess pieces, combs and handles, and much, much more were made of bone. The famous Monomach's hat is the product of chasers and jewelers of the Golden Horde. It was made at the end of the 13th century. This headdress was worn by the Tsars of the Russian state. During the excavation of the Golden Horde cities and settlements, thousands of fragments of leather goods were found. Fabrics were brought to the Golden Horde markets from different countries of the world: Europe, China, India, and Iran. The most expensive were brocade and silver fabrics. Brocade and silk robes were worn by the nobility. The poor population used linen, cotton, and woolen fabrics. The rulers of the Golden Horde developed a monetary policy based on the Sika law. That is, only the Han had the right to mint a coin and levy a tax for its production. Felt is the most ancient material of nomads. It was felt that helped the people to survive in the most difficult natural conditions. It did not let rain, wind, and cold through. Felting is perhaps one of the ancient ways of processing wool. Its history is so deep that it is difficult to say exactly how and when felt appeared. It was mostly women who were engaged in felt rolling. It was a difficult and time-consuming process. There are still some Kazakh craftswomen around who can felt the way that artisans of that period did. Thanks to the findings of scientists, it is known that felt in the Golden Horde was made of various varieties and qualities, of wool and down. Felt was often combined with silk fabric for the beauty and durability of the product. The main raw material was sheep's wool, with a small addition of lamb, goat, or camel wool. The natural color of felt was white or black, depending on the color of the sheep. The felting procedure is rather complicated. The process itself is based on the entanglement of wool fibers with each other. Usually, craftsmen used wet felting techniques. In order to create an ornament, artisans dyed wool and silk with special natural dyes. After the completion of dyeing, the wool was wrung out, dried, and combed. Ornamental elements used by the Golden Horde felt masters can also be found in the felt products of Kazakhstani masters. These include abstract geometric shapes and floral designs. Unlike metal and wood, which are properly preserved, clay remains in excellent condition for many centuries. Most often, during excavations, scientists find dishes, clay shards, as well as residues of tandoor and brick buildings. In the museums of Kazakhstan, we can see numerous and eloquent artifacts that can tell us about the life of the Golden Horde state. Using potter's wheels, craftsmen learned how to make high-quality clay products, and later achieved a high level of skill in ceramic firings. This gave the products durability, functionality, and of course, beauty. Artisans of the Golden Horde decorated their ceramics with intricate patterns and designs, painting them in various colors. In the Mongolian steppe, trees grew only at the foot of the mountains. Therefore, wood products had a high price. Master carvers held high positions among artisans. The nomads needed their goods badly. Having subjugated the regions of Eurasia that were covered with forests, the Mongols no longer had any need for wood. Now every man could make a bucket or an arrow. All they needed was to cut down the desired trunk, peel off its bark, dry it well, and attach a metal tip to the shaft. The long-term practice of making wooden arrows and other weapons allowed the Mongols to always have the necessary weapons at hand. Weapons. The victories of the Mongolian armies were largely dependent on the military equipment and weapons of their soldiers. The armament of soldiers of the Golden Horde period was quite diverse. Spears, sabers, axes, and shields, as well as armor. All of these things could be made by skilled blacksmith armorers. Blacksmithing in the state of Jochi was widely developed and brought a large income to the Han's treasury. We will tell you all about these weapons and armament of the Mongolian soldiers in our next program.